I'll give it till 6:02, and then I'm gonna go full tilt. It's gonna take a little while. All right, it's 6:02, and I'm going to get started. Thank you, everyone, for coming today to learn a little bit about the new app design in Swift. I'm excited to demo this for you. I think there's a lot of opportunities with this in the classroom, from K to 8 especially, but all the way through up to adult education. Having the ability to deploy apps directly from the iPad was one of the biggest requests of Apple in the coding space. So I'm excited that it's here now, and we can make use of it. So before we begin, I'd like to take this opportunity to do a land acknowledgement. And since we're all over the place, this is a more generic one, but if you have a specific one, please respect that. We are gathered on the ancestral lands and waters of all Indigenous peoples who have left their footprints on Mother Earth before us. We respectfully acknowledge those who have walked on it, those who walk on it now, and future generations who have yet to walk upon it. So you've come to an Apple coding session on Swift, but Apple's belief is that every student should have the opportunity to create something that changed the world. And that may be a program, that may be an interactive presentation, it may be a new way to interface with photographs, could be augmented reality. We don't know, but we want to make sure that we are giving students the opportunity here. And that is so important. And to get the technology into their hands so that they can learn as early as possible some of the amazing features that are available through the Apple suite of products. But more importantly, at the end of the day, one of the things that I know as an educator we really want is to give the students the power to give them the opportunity and the know-how to create something that can change the world. And I'd like to start, before we get right into it, with just a kind of an example of that, a real life example. And it comes down to a very famous book, which was later made into a movie that won an award out of the Cannes Film Festival, called The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. And it was written by somebody named Jean-Dominique Bauby. I believe I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I apologize if I don't. And he wrote this book using no hands, no voice, and he was locked into something called locked-in syndrome. Now, locked-in syndrome is an unfortunate condition, and it would be terrible to have, usually results of a stroke, but the details are you're unable to move, and you are alert and awake. Some people have the ability to move their eyes and blink, and it seems to be the only system that actually has voluntary control. So my question to you is, how do you think Jean was able to write a book with the ability to move his eyes and blink? And I want to put that into the context of the ability to change the world. And although this book was originally written in the 70s and early 80s, what would happen now? So I want you to take a minute, and I want you to think to yourself, how could you possibly write a book without being able to move your hands or talk? If you have ideas and you want to put them in chat, go ahead. Our co-host, which I'll introduce shortly, Martin, he'll be able to shout them out. But I do want to get this off the ground just to get us warmed up. So let me give you a hint while you're thinking about it. He was able to blink. He was able to blink. So maybe we pose the question as, how did he write a book with the ability to blink. All right, I won't hold the suspense any longer. Let's take a look. So what he did was something remarkable, and I still have I've used this example for many years, and I'm still every time I see it, I'm in awe at this man. So he was unable to speak or move, and he wanted to write a book. So not only did he write the book, he was able to communicate that he wanted to write a book, and then from there not only do that, but complete the book and edit the book as well. So a remarkable feat in any day. And if you're thinking about the opportunity, which I started this with, to be able to change the world or assist somebody like Jean in this endeavor, what would you have done? Well, you know that he can blink. And if you can blink, then perhaps you can do some form of Morse code, or perhaps you can do some rudimentary blinks to showcase yes or no. And that's exactly how he did it. Now, instead of using Morse code, which was a little bit cumbersome, they were able to, with the assistance of his nurse, so you can see her in actual picture on the left, and on the right of the screen is from the movie. They were able to write the book using an actual printed out card that you can see that she's holding with letters on it. Now, how do you think she was able to decipher which letter that he wanted? Well, it was through a series of blinks. And every time he wanted the letter, he would stop blinking. So what she would do is she would hold her hands over the letter, and he would blink, 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 and then stop blink. Or in some cases, when they got really good, he would just actually not blink, and she would just zip through the letters until he did blink. But fascinating, and you can imagine how long that took. Now, when I do this in person, this activity, I actually have people face one another and try to say a simple sentence like, I like cats or I like dogs, and just to see how long it would take to blink it out. Now, I wouldn't give them the picture that you see on the right. As a matter of fact, I would likely just tell them to do it using the alphabet, and everybody starts at A, and it goes to the letter Z, and it takes a tremendous long amount of time to do it, which is why, and this is where our coding comes in, and this is where our app design comes in that we're going to talk about today. You learn the basics of efficiency. So certainly he could have written the book out using A to Z, the 26 letters in a row, but it took a long time. And so they optimized their algorithm by simply rearranging the letters to the most obvious ones first, right? The vowels, typically. If anyone who's ever watched the show Wheel of Fortune knows that there's some specific letters that show up in the alphabet more than others. And that's exactly what they did. And really, this was probably the first form of autocorrect ever invented, because what the nurse would do is, as she cycled through the letters, you could start to see the word form, and then she would say the word, and he would say yes or no. So you can see in this one simple act of rearranging letters, you were able to increase the efficiency, increase the runtime of the book. But you think about the intangibles too. It was probably very difficult and taxing for him to do this because of the time. So you can imagine that this lightened that. It allowed him to get his story out quicker. It probably allowed his brain to retrieve memories a little faster because there's not as much draw on the simple act of blinking. So there's all these other factors at play. And I want you to remember that today as we go through some of the activities in Swift. So let's talk about what it is. If you are here and you want to, you're comfortable, say hello, who you are, where you're from, what you teach, and then we'll go through the basics first, and then we'll jump right into coding an app. And you'll have the opportunity to watch along if you want, and if you have an iPad with you, please join in. You're going to need Swift Playgrounds, and I'll get to that in a second. So while you're typing in who you are, I'll introduce myself. So my name is Jason Wood. I'm a science teacher at a school called Holy Trinity School. We're located in Richmond Hill, Ontario. I'm also an Apple Distinguished Educator as well as an Apple Learning Specialist, which means I teach other teachers like yourselves, other educators about some of the products, both hardware and software, and how they integrate really well into our classroom. And what's special about the school I work at is we're an Apple Distinguished School, which means every student K to 12 has an Apple device in their hand, whether it's an iPad or a MacBook. So we are all Apple all the time. And the benefit to you is that I've seen it all, good, the bad, the ugly, and I'm happy to share all of those details with you, especially when it comes to app design. I'll just hand it over to Martin really quickly for a quick intro on his half, and then we'll move along. Go ahead, Martin.
So hi everyone, I'm Martin Pelletier. I'm the co-pilot for today. I'll be in the chat moderating if you have any questions or things like that. I'll also be posting some links to important resources that our host will be talking about. And yeah, I'm a pedagogical leader in a Francophone district in Moncton, New Brunswick, on the East Coast. My specialties are technologies in the classroom and also assistive technologies, but we also work a lot with iPads, and you touched something that we're working with lately, just the blinking of an eye with some students. It's also something that we see in the classroom lately. So not lately, just lately, but working with different ways to accommodate students. So thanks for that intro.
Yeah, thank you. So we got a lot of experience here. Please jump in, ask as many questions you want. Martin will interrupt me. I can't see you, but he'll shout it out and we'll answer your question right away. No need to hold it, and you can drop it in the chat. Also, you'll see a bunch of QR codes at the end. I'll explain how to easily access those, but we'll also post the links for you as well. So what do you need to get through this session? If you have an iPad with the latest iOS, you can download the latest version of Swift. It's a free app. To be warned, it's fairly big to get. So if you want to start doing that now, then you'll catch up as we get into it. The Everyone in Code Adventures is an electronic book. You can find it in the bookstore and Apple. We're going to take a little tour through it very briefly just to kind of refresh ourselves. And then we'll get into it. So here's our first QR code. So one of the things that you can find is the Apple books. These are not going to help us with our app design today, but it's a really good way to get a refresher to Swift. So this session in particular is going to leap over all of the basics and go a little bit more advanced. Now, you might be very frightened by that idea. It's coding, it's tech. Do not worry. The Swift app design program has been developed with people who don't have the highest tech skills in mind. And it's actually the templates that you'll see are completely manipulated, easily manipulated, I should say, without any prior technical skill. So you don't actually have to put too much code to the screen in order to get the app to work. You'll see something there, get started with apps. I'm about to show you what that is. But that's an app once you get Swift. So I'll show you how to get that and how it works, and we'll run through that as well. So if you, I don't have my phone on me because it died and I was charging, but if you want to get this QR code, you simply put your camera on, hold your phone up as you're going to take a picture of the QR code. You'll see it highlight around in a yellow bracket, and the link will pop up. And if you push that link right in your camera app, it'll take you through the Safari app into the bookstore where you will find those books. Again, if you have any questions with this, please, Martin's there. If it's something easy, he's happy to answer it as well. So we want to make sure that you get the materials that you need. So one of the things that I have worked with Apple specifically on over the last few months was connecting. This is a national endeavor. My part was Ontario, where I live, to connect coding to the math and now the science curriculum, because the Ontario government has implemented specific coding skills, especially in math. So you click on that QR code, that'll take you to my website, my personal website, and you'll be able to take a look from grades 1 to 8 on coding specifics in Ontario if that's what you are where you teach. If you don't worry. What's really nice is, from my experience across the country, there is some decent overlap with all of the coding requirements. So you might find the specific one that you're looking for. All right, let's get going. What does coding look like? So I want you to take a second and and think to yourself, what does coding look like? I showed you a non-tech version of what coding looked like, and that's Jean and his nurse completely writing a book. You might say, well, how's the coding? Well, what does it look like? Well, what is coding? And coding is just a process, right? It's a process of piecing together information in the most efficient and effective way possible to get an outcome. I know that sounds super high level, but I want you to think what other things coding might look like. Coding is driving to a place that you've never been before because you need directions how to get there. And if you've ever been stuck in traffic, I know in the old days when I used to use maps, you need a good guide, and you need to be able to change on the fly. You need to be able to, if you encounter a traffic jam or a closed road, you need to be able to move around. That's what coding, a form of coding is too. Coding are apps that you use every day. Think of some of the apps that you're using constantly. Most people use social media apps today: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Those are not very difficult to design. The hard part is to get people to use them. So there's all these offshoots of different social media apps, but offering a specific value to the app that you have is also important. So why do you use the apps that you use? So coding looks complicated. It could mean a whole bunch of things, and that's why it's really important to understand the basics of it. So let's go back to the beginning. A function, what is it? Well, that's what I said at the beginning. It's just a piece of information, and you can call it over and over again. And we do this all the time without even thinking, our subconscious. That's why I picture this little kid brushing their teeth, because we brush our teeth. Hopefully you do. Good oral hygiene twice a day at least, is something you do automatically, right? I know I do it in the morning. I'm half asleep. I know I do it at night when I'm half asleep. I know exactly what to do. I don't have to go onto YouTube and get an instruction on how to brush my teeth. It's automatic. So I basically get up in the morning to go brush my teeth, and I call the function brush teeth. And what that is I take my toothbrush, I give it a rinse, I put the toothpaste on, and then I brush my teeth for the length of the happy birthday song, if not longer. And so I do that, and I have done that for my life. So I don't need to reinvent. I don't need to write a code every time that I go to brush my teeth. I don't need to find that information. I don't need to relearn it. It's there. Think of all the things you do every day, like getting dressed. It's just on autopilot. That's a function. And those are the core of what we do in coding behind the scenes. And once you have your function, then you've got the sort of the meat and potatoes of your app. And everything else is just facade and being able to tinker with it to make it look more effective. You'll see that in a second. Another big one that we'll talk about is a variable. And a variable is just a function, but it changes, right? So if you want to think of the toothbrush example, maybe some days you have to brush your teeth in the downstairs bathroom instead of the upstairs bathroom. Or sometimes you have to do it in the shower when you're in a hurry. And so when that changes, that the variable there is the place that it changes, right? You're still brushing your teeth, you're still calling the function, but there is some spots where it changes. The most prime example is a birthday, right? Everybody has a birthday. Everybody who's born has a birthday, and those birthdays can fall on a calendar that is 365 days. And so you can know that there's a function called birthday, and when you have a birthday, you have a celebration or however you celebrate it, but you do have a day but each day could be different, right? There's lots of people who have the same birthday, but there's also many people who have different birthdays that you know. As a matter of fact, my young son asks me all the time, how many people have their birthday today? And I'd say, I don't know. And he would force me to guess how many millions or billions. And I said, I honestly don't know. Actually, we looked it up one day, and it was interesting to see the variable distribution of birthdays and how they're spread out through the year. It's not as even as you might think. Okay, user interface. This is us. This is what we're going to do. The user interface is what you see when you turn on Instagram, what you see when you turn on your Facebook app, what you see when you check your email. That is it. We know behind the scenes there's a bunch of code just going wild to try and answer all of the taps. So you can see in these user interface examples, every time I push a button, it calls a function. It calls a command. And it says, hey, I want to do this. Push button, call this information. And all of this is called the user interface. Anything that is on the outside, and as you look into it or onto it is probably a better word, that's what the app is doing. And so you'll see today we're going to interact with those functions, those variables, and we're also going to see how it affects the user interface. Or probably a little easier to understand is when we click something on the user interface, what happens to the code? And that's really important to see as well. Okay. The last thing is, before we jump into it, is something called views. So this is how your app looks. So obviously the user interface is all the buttons and areas we push, but the view area is like a chessboard. You see, it's calling where you push it. So you imagine you can play chess, but there's a board that you play chess on. If you take the queen and you put it beside the chessboard, that is an irrelevant thing. And so when we design an app, we have to consider the view. So I can't put a button too far up high because it may not work, because everyone has different phones, right? You may have somebody, I know my wife has a different phone than me. My kids have different iPads than I do. And so you want this program to run on all of these devices, and all of those screens are different sizes. So we have to consider the view. All right, enough of this. Let's get into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to start sharing my iPad. And let's the magic begin here. Give it a second to connect while it's thinking. Okay, here we go. So you'll see here that I have my highlighter enabled. You'll be able to follow all of my button pushes. So you're going to find the app here called Swift Playgrounds. So I'm going to click on it, and it's going to take you here. Now, yours is going to look a lot different if this is the first time you're opening it. You probably will see Learn to Code up there. Maybe some of these, I think the Get Started with Code now comes native to it, but it may look different. Don't panic. These are just some of the programs that I'm working on within the Swift app. So if we want to go back to our user interface and the views, the user interface is sort of Swift, and all within Swift are a bunch of different applications. So we've got different levels going on. So what you want to do is, if you don't have the one that we need right away, which is Get Started with Apps, if it doesn't appear there for you, you can go down to the bottom to More Playgrounds. You click See All, and here you go. It's like a little mini app store within an app store. And you should see right away that there's Get Started with Apps. So if I click on that, I can get it, and it starts to load. You can see it loads right up. So that's where we're going to start. We'll take a quick tour in here just to show you what it looks like, and then we'll get on. While you're there, you can actually get an About Me app. So you might not see the About Me app. You're like, where could it possibly be? It's on the app gallery. The first one, if you didn't pick it up, I was just being a little facetious there. It's the first one right under About Me. So you can grab that as well. So I'll do that. Well, because you can see it takes some time to load. So let's go in to Get Started with Apps as a little quick tour here. So if you remember, this is assuming you've been through Learn to Code 1 and 2. That's you've gone through the basics. So Swift shouldn't be completely new to you. Again, don't panic if it isn't, but I would recommend that before you put it into the classroom, you start there with your students as well to give them some foundation. And you can do this. I've done this with as young as grade 2s and as old as grade 8. So Learn to Code 1, I'm just going to open it up just to show you what it looks like as a familiarity. This is teaching you the different commands, the functions, the loops, all of the basics of coding. and it is a puzzle system. It's really fun, it's engaging, and it connects to the curriculum if you're Ontario, actually across Canada. I'm comfortable saying that now. Okay, so we'll leave that and let's get started with apps. So this looks a lot different because this is the new version of it. This is the actual coding now, where you get to put the pedal to the metal, as they say, and show us what you know about the codes. I wanted to give you a quick tour while we're here, because this is really helpful for when we get into the app editing. So on the right, when you first open, you'll see Get Started with Apps. This is going to be your best friend for the first go of it. What this is this is the tutorial. So this introduces you through the basics of how this works. So we'll take a couple steps through here before we move on, just so you get comfortable with that. But before we do, I want to show you a couple other things. So you'll see this is the library. So this is basically representing tutorial. On the right, this is what we call the preview or the view, and it is what your app looks like. Now, this is where the power comes alive in this particular app. You can actually go and code and change things, and it shows up in real time. So when you publish your app to the App Store, this is what it would look like. This is important to know because this is, do you remember the name of that? The user interface, right? The user interface. This is what the person sees. This is what's going on behind the scenes that nobody can see, this code over here. So our user interface is on the right. It's real time. This is what the person would see when they download the app. And of course, the view would be this area here, right? This is our screen. So you can see that this setup, it might remind you of an iPhone. That's typically how coding's done. If you get into the more detailed programs like Xcode on a MacBook, you can change the view area to be an iPad, but this is also scalable, and I'm going to show you how to do that as well. Okay, let's go back to the tutorial. Over here is, as I mentioned, the technical code that you're going to add, and up here, this is another important one. If you click on this, basically what it does is it brings out your sort of index. So this is like all of the different levels of your app and all the different spots where information is stored. Your assets are where the images are stored for the app. If I'm going too fast, I apologize, but we're going to go through this again. I just wanted to show you the quick overview of what's happening in this app, because once you get familiar with it, you'll zoom through it. So you can see if you click on this, this is sort of the title of the app. This would be the little logo area that you would see on your iPad or your iPhone when you click it. So you can actually, in our app, we'll change that up a bit. Each one of these views, you can see when I click on it, it actually shows up, and we'll go through those details. It explains it a little bit, but each one is calling a different theme to it. It has a different command. It has different functions within it, and it'll all make sense here when we go over to the tutorial. So what this is called Swift UI. Swift UI is the language, right? It's like learning a language, a new language, English or French, right? So there's specific rules to each language, but English, French, Spanish, we come more of a Latin base to them. So while you might be able to learn Swift UI's language, doesn't necessarily mean you can start coding apps for, say, Android, because that uses a different language as well. There's actually more languages you can use within there, something like a Java. But when you learn coding, even the basics, you will see that there's similar patterns throughout. Much like when you learn an actual language, you see that there's different patterns throughout. So you might say, well, my kids are going to use their Chromebooks next year. Don't worry. What we're doing here is we're giving them an opportunity to create and design, and we promise you that they will not miss out if they switch through another device. So that's what that is. Okay, so to get this to work, if you click on Swift UI, it's neat. It gives you the little definition, so you'll know everything. When you click on each little section, you'll see it pop up here. It just tells you a little bit about it, what it is doing, and then if you follow it along, you'll see there's 5 steps. We'll go through them really quickly. It tells you exactly what's happening at the most basic fundamental level. It's wonderful. I love even going back and getting a refresher on this when I'm doing it, just so I get the connection, because you'll see how everything is embedded together as we go. So in this particular one, you're seeing the view. Oh, wait, we've been talking about views. Well, this is the structure. We call it a struct. This is how that view is set up. So what is it going to look like? So we've got our game board, but now where are we going to put those chess pieces? And so you can see that it has what we call a body and some properties to them of what they go and how that's set up. But basically what this is saying in the simplest terms possible is look, I'm setting this up and I want to say hello friend. I didn't tell it where that hello friend should be on the screen. I didn't tell it how big the letter should be. I didn't tell it what type of letters it should be. I didn't tell it if it was bold. I didn't tell it what color it was. So because we don't tell the computer that, we don't tell Swift, Swift is smart enough to say, listen, I'm just going to put it in the middle in the basic black font that's standard in Swift. And we'll get into, when we get into my app in a couple minutes here, we'll get into showing you how you can change all of that. So we can mess with this. If you want to go through the tutorial, we will, but I do want to speed things up and get into our app. But the best part of this, I promise you, and this is where kids are going to love it. The students absolutely love it that I teach. Doesn't matter if they're young or in high school. It's the ability to change something within the code and see it happen in real time. So if I go up here and I click on this and I change this to hello everyone, look what happens on the right. It changes right away. I can do anything I want, right? I can, and whatever I type in here is going to change it. So let's mess with it a little bit more. Let's break it. So we can break it by saying, well, I want to try to write welcome to my app. And you can see that nothing happens. And as a matter of fact, it throws you an error. So you might say, uh-oh, you're going to see this a lot when you're new. Please don't panic. I used to get panicked by it. I'm the type of person who's typing my essay out. When the red little line comes under, I need to change it right away. I need that right word. Then it throws your thinking off. That's what my teachers always said. Just power through it, write it out, and then go back and fix it. The error, if you click up here, it gives you the details. Consecutive statement must be separated. It basically is saying, I have no idea what you're doing. The error is really good because in some languages, it just says error. It doesn't tell you why you have an error. This one, because we just kind of randomly did it, it basically says, listen, I have no idea what's going on. So I'm going to back out of here and watch what happens when I back out. It automatically gets rid of the error. Everything is good again. So that's really helpful. So when you have an error, you just delete that line and it goes away and everything's going to work again. So I want to show you one more thing here. When I do start to type out code, notice that this is probably the second best thing about second best. I'm going to go with second best because the error really does come in helpful once you get to be a little bit of an expert, is you type in a letter and look what happens. When you type in a letter, Swift is smart enough to try and guess what you're trying to do here. Now, because I did one letter, it's trying to guess a lot, basically saying, what are you trying to do? So I might say, okay, that's no good, but maybe I wanted to like change the color of it. So if I type in color, look, I can see that there's a color right here. And this little button here, it actually tells you that, like, instead of you finishing it, it's like the auto finish, it puts it in. So now it's like, okay, you can see up here, there's a little bit of an error. It doesn't have the type. So this is really helpful with the errors because I'm like, how do I know what color to do? How do I know what's the syntax, we would say? How do I change the color? So it tells you here, oh, color dot type. So I'm going to put, if I put a dot, it will go, it actually tells me the color. Isn't that cool? And so if I type, say, blue, and I put it in, that's not good. What happened? Well, the whole screen turned blue. As a matter of fact, our hello everyone got bounced to the top. So that's not good either. So what's really nice, again, is that you can get rid of it and it goes back. So you can really play around here. And this is so important when you're doing it, because what's going to happen is you're inevitably going to run into an error. So if we wanted to change the color, we might do color, and we could do, I don't know, we could try I'm trying to throw an error here. Let's see, type blue. No, it's not. Yeah, so there we go. It goes blue again, and you can see, hey, it's not working. So the other thing I wanted to show is, notice that I went here, and this looks a lot different than this, but it produces the same result. And that's another awesome thing about Swift, is that it is smart enough to go, okay, I get what you're trying to say. I don't like how you did it, but I get what you're trying to say, and I'll do my best to get that program running. So really good. All right, if there's any questions, you can ask Martin now. If not, I'm going to move on with that. Let's start building an app. So goodbye to get started with apps. Hello, about me. So when I think this one is, yes, this is. So I just want to show you one I was just messing around with. This took me 20 minutes. Again, I do have some experience. I've coded apps, but I just want to show you some of the things that I've done with this app. So I put a picture of my kids. I've changed the color and the font type up here of this. I've gone down. I've changed the background on this one. But you can see that this app is pretty interactive. So that's just sort of an easy way to get. I put this picture with my kid with his bag on his head as the app setting, and showing you just some of the things that you can do really quickly. So what does the original one look like? Let's take a look. So just like the get started with apps, this one takes you to standard home screen, but it has a tutorial. So you can see here the app comes basically loaded. So you can see in the one I did, I added the picture, I changed the color of the text, I changed the background on this, but I didn't change any of the other features because I could, but we're going to do that together. So you click over here. Remember, this is our tutorial, so we're going to do a couple of these tutorials together to get you set up, but because they're there, I'm going to just leave them after the first two and let you go through the rest, and I'll just show you some of the awesome things that you can do with your app. So why this is important? Why do this and not build an app from scratch? Well, there's a couple reasons. Number one, the nuts and bolts are there. You can see that in an app like this, there's actually a good setup for an app you might do in class. So maybe as an educator, you do this. Part of your coding and math class is to code an app that is about you, tells stories about you, tells some fun facts about you, tells where you live and your upbringing and things like that. You can see how the crossover, if you're an elementary teacher, you can have a total crossover between math and social studies if you're talking about something in your community. But even better, and this is how I use it, this is the nuts and bolts of the user interface that says, hey, I can change the names and the buttons down here, no problem whatsoever, by simply going to the area that this stores this information, changing it, and actually maybe I make an app about. I'm a science teacher. Maybe I make an app about a project I'm doing on cells. And maybe I make an app about experiments that you can do in science class. And it's a little journal. So you have the profile of the person. On the story side, you have pictures that they've added of the things they've done in science class. You can actually take that and put that on the App Store. How cool is that? Send it out to parents. You can share it with parents. It's really interesting. So the sky's the limit. So don't think about just as this is about me while we're going through this. Think about how you would use this in your classroom. So we'll just skip over this because we've already gone through the basics. I'm just going to open this up so you can see the familiarity. This is how I interact with it. But let's just go right to it and talk about the tabbed interface. So this is your content view. This is the first view. So this is basically how your app is set up. Remember, we talked about views. When how the chess pieces are arranged in this app, you can see that in this view, you've got two titles with a picture, but it also says, hey, listen, at the bottom, look, there's a home view, a story view, a favorites view, a fun facts view. So that's what this is saying. Have something in the middle, at the bottom, basically, here's your tabs. Simple app, easy, but effective. So the body we've talked about, that's just what is there, how it's set up. This is all the buttons and how they work. This down here, I don't know if they do say it in this one. They don't. This down here is you won't mess with. This basically is how tells the app to run the preview. So if we cancel this out, it will and change everything. The app won't update. So I'll show you that in a second. So we're zipping through here. We just I'm just going to tell you through. You can obviously read, but what you can do is you can actually take, say, let's go down here to story view. Let's cancel this out. So instead of deleting, and this is a good coding practice, a couple slashes basically renders it useless. It doesn't delete it because you may want to go back, because if I get rid of those two, guess what happens? It comes right back like nothing's happened. So this is great for a couple reasons. Seeing how the app looks before the code is enabled. Trying to debug. Sometimes a specific line is messing you up and you just blank it out and the app runs. This is if you want to try something, and if you don't like it, you can revert back. So we can actually go down and we can try this. So if I go up here, and all I do is I'm going to do this label, and then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to call it my background. And then I'm going to do background. And then I'm going to copy the syntax. All I'm doing is copy the syntax up here. This is why you don't need coding experience. Whoops, I would push the wrong button. System image, see how it comes right up. I can add it in. Now, this one's a little tricky because it's a string. So we can do all kinds of things here, but a system image is basically, it's a font. It's calling up a font that you've used. And if I exit out here, I go up here. This is called SF symbols. So what this is, it's basically the font that you can add. So there are thousands of little fonts that you can use on the bottom to replace the book. So you can see here, I've downloaded this on my MacBook, but for today's purposes, we'll just add something. So you can actually go over here, and this website called sfsymbols.com. Martin, you can put that in the chat if they're interested. It basically, you can see it doesn't let us show us the pictures, but say we want something like a background. I don't know if that's even background. And it gives you some information, but you can see there's nothing there. So we want to go more of a symbol. So let's talk, it said, let's do a flag. So look, we can just type in flag. Maybe we're doing our cultural background or something. So if we get back out, we'll go back to Swift, and we'll just put in here flag. And look what happens right away. Bam, the flag shows up. So that's the power of it. You can actually customize this right to the actual images and the interactivity. So I click on the background, you'll see my story. Well, we want to change that next. So if we wanted to go and cause this background, you can see that there's nothing here that says that. So perhaps we want to go into that information. Where do you find that? Well, over here are all of the little tabs that you want open to find the information. So let's go through them really quickly. The home view. Well, guess what that is? That's the home view. The background I've changed. So now that's story view. So if I long hold on it, I can rename it. So I'm going to call this background. But notice I have to camel code it with the background view. So now I have background view and puts it in alphabetical order. So we've changed that for us. Perfect. Then, of course, we've got the favorites view and then the fun facts view. That doesn't tell us much because if you go through the fun facts, I don't see much text here. But if I go here and I click it, the femur is the longest bone. I don't see that written here. Where are all these random facts stored? Are they magic? They're not magic. I wish they were magic. That's where your data view is. So if you go over to your data, and data is just all the information you have in this app. So you can see all of the fun facts have been coded and they're all here. So we can actually add a fun fact in. I'm just going to copy this syntax to make it a little easier, a little quicker. So a fun fact. The sun is made of helium and hydrogen. That's not really a fun fact. That's just a fact. Okay, let's test it out. See if it works. Let's see if we get it. So it's calling random ones. Oh, did I click it too fast? Oh, there it is. Perfect. So you saw it pop up. So you can customize this. Maybe in this side, you do have fun facts. Maybe you are calling comments from your class. Maybe this is where you put your information from your science experiment. Conclusion. You click the conclusion button. So you don't see that the conclusion button is here or the show random fact. Well, if you go over here, look what it is. Here's the button. So we can change this, right? So we click the fun facts, right? We know that random fact generator. I know the kids I teach love that word generator. So we can change that, and then it's still random fact generator. It's generating random facts, and then you can actually call change the title. You can change the bottom down here. So whatever you do to this, it changes. So this is the best place to start when it comes to creating a unique app. So if you follow our inclusive design app program that we've done through Logix, you'll be able to see how to create an interactive app that's effective. So this is kind of skipping over that, assuming you've already got your idea and you know what to do with it, and showing you how to mess around with it. So let's go to our home view, which is down here. And let's go home. So it takes us there. Let's change this up a little bit. Let's make this a little more custom. So you can see that we're going to call it all about, but we want to change my name to my name. So I don't see it here. So I can see this is here. Let's go my name. Oh, we got to go back to the data. Let's look for it. There it is. So why is this in here and not in that view? That's just good coding pedagogy. That's just saying, look, anytime that I have a specific information about me or about this app, I'm going to store it in one place so that if I hand my app to a developer to get tested, or if I want to upgrade it, that developer is going to know, hey, there's a process. So you could technically do it in the home view. You totally could. You just have to put this code in, let information equal info, and just put name. But you'll also have to do that every single time for every single page. So you've created one function, and within that, you've called all of this information. So it's just this, it's a streamline. It's Jean Bobet basically rearranging the letters of the alphabet, making it easier to find. So that's really important too. So we're going to change this to my name. If you're following along, you can change it to your name. And you see, oh, it's not popping up right away. Look up here. It's loading. So if you're not getting it quick enough, don't panic. It changes it. Now, there is one disadvantage here because we want to change some of the features of the font. So we actually have to go back to home view for that. And you'll see it's a lot easier to change this one because look, it's this is saying all about. So because this is a generic title, it's not going to change. It's technically not data. We call it part of our view screen. It's sort of like you know, the square size on the chessboard. You're not gonna mess around with it, but we are today. So we're gonna call this what are we calling it? My story. So we've changed this, we've got this. So these underneath this text, so this thing is called a VStack. That's how it's arranged, a stack. So it's basically saying do this first, then add a picture, and then put some text under here. So this is where we can change this style of text, right? The data, the actual what it is stored in the other place, and my story is over here. So let's try the color. Let's see if we can do it. So let's go. Oh, I got to do this up here. I think I have to do it up here. So if we check the color, we can say large title. Let's try to put a comma to see what happens and do color. And see, you're on to something if it pops up. Let's see what happens. If we click it in, we might get an error. Don't panic. Nothing's happened yet. Oh, extra argument. Let's try the dot blue. Oh, accent color. I said blue. And see what happens. So you're seeing an error here. An extra argument in the call. That's not good. So if you encounter something like this, you know that there's a problem. You know that you think you've got the coding right. So typically when I encounter this, I have done something wrong. Maybe there's no comma here. Maybe this needs to be, because it says extra argument. So it's saying, hey, you've got a large title, but why don't you just go down here and type font or type color and then type blue and see what happens. Oh, that's no good. Okay, so that's saying, hey, listen, just add in some color blue. So that doesn't help us. So if we go down here and go font, and then we do this, let's try color. Oh, it comes up. Let's see what happens. Does it throw an error? So you can see that there's an error. So what happens if you've done this and you're still trying to debug? Don't panic. Let me show you. I'm going to go back to my other app where I changed the color. There are lots of resources online. If you go and you simply search for change color in Swift UI, the language, it will give you some options. So watch what I do. This is why I save all my apps. So if I go back to my About Me, and this is why groups would work together or kids doing different things. You can go to Home View here and look what I did. Oh, I had to do something called foreground color. Well, that's weird. I didn't know that. Now, to the truth be told, I mean, I have experience with it, but when I first was trying to figure it out, I literally had to look it up. So let's just copy it. And this is another good thing, right? I can copy this and then I can go back. So you can share this across different things. I'm going to go to my home view and I'm going to put, oh, I'm still in the same one. Sorry. I'm going to go back to my home view and I'm going to put it underneath and let's just see how well it transposes. Look at that. Perfect, right? That's the beautiful thing of it. You can collaborate really well as also. You can change the type of font as well. We're not going to do that just given the time, but same thing. Just simply go change font style, Swift UI, and you'll get all of that information. So you can dive very deep into it. Of course, there's lots of resources that I'll show you in a couple minutes here. So let's get to the image. So you've got the image, and you've got the information here. But what do we do? Like, how do I change it? Information.image. Maybe it's in the data. Let's look. No, that just seems to be a lot of text. Well, here's some hints. If you get stuck doing this, you can go through here. You can actually click the tutorial. It walks you through it. to do it. So you just go through it very fast. Tells you how to change the bold. Oh, here's our image. This image displays the image that you want that's changed in the data file. The image is resizable. You can have it fit or you can have it fill. Again, you can do all of this. So you'll follow through. You can change it. And again, all of these here. So if we go here and we look for information, no, it's not there. Oh, here it is. Down here, if you look, it's the placeholder, right? So if you click plus up here, you can actually click a photo right from your photos in your phone. You can save them to a folder. You can insert from a folder, right? I can find all the ones in my thing. I'm going to cancel because there's nothing really there except for my COVID testing I have to do twice a week. So let's go for the photo. So let's apologize in advance. Let's find a picture of my son putting a leprechaun hat on the ground. Oh, great. It's not the right way. Well, yeah, that's a problem. So I've done this before. You know, the people who take pictures like this on their phone versus like this, that's the difference. So if you take a picture like this, it kind of just fills the space. So you want to find a picture that's that. You can also go into the image in your Photos app and change the size. So that's no good to us. Let's try another photo here. We'll go with this one. Let's see. Well, we're playing video games on March break. Same thing. Well, we know this one works. There it is. So I actually took the photo the right way. Actually, that was my wife doing that, taking those photos. So the photo is here. So we've got all of these image asset 1, asset 2. This is no good. So if you long hold it, you can rename it, and you can call it, we can call it home picture. Perfect. So there it is. Now I'm noticing a bunch of stuff up here that it's getting really messy as I scroll through. So what I like to do is just consolidate by just closing them all. Don't worry, you're not going to lose anything. It will just default here, and you can't actually close the next one. But you can always go back to this, right? Okay, so let's click over here. And let's just try this. Let's just try to see if we can guess our way into it. Home picture. I'm trying to just show you some guessing. No, that's not it. Okay, it's .image. There we go. All right, so one of the things you can do is you can look for the placeholder name, right? So it's calling that placeholder image. So what we're going to find is we're going to go through the tabs together really quickly and see if we can find anything that says the placeholder image. My story, no. Title padding, we've kind of done this. Scroll view padding, top, content view, home view. Oh, that's the changing of the person, your data, let information, name. Oh, I've been tricking you this whole time, haven't I? I've been zooming through it. So you can see here, it says image. So if you go back here really quick, you can see, if you go back to our home view, you can see it's calling image. So I've been playing a little bit of possum with you. I was trying to put it in there, but if you go back to our data, it actually says that image. So that's connected. It's saying, hey, get the information from this image over here, which is stored in our data, which is where everything should be stored. So don't think that you can't you store pictures in. So we're actually going to change this from placeholder to home picture. And what we should see is the app is loading here. And it takes the time because what it's doing is it's taking it from in the storage area and it's now putting it into the view place and making it accessible. So while that's happening, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it because we're getting really short on time. And I just want to show you a couple of things where you can find more information, how it goes. And then if it loads, I'll switch back to it just so you can see. But since we use the same picture, you'll be able to see it anyway. So Let me go back. I'm just going to present here. So here's some resources that you can go if you need more, because an hour is just not long enough, as you know. You can always reach me. I'll have my credentials at the end. Martin can provide his as well. We're happy to help. But more importantly is we're going to continue on with this in your classrooms. And I'll do the same thing with your students. You just need to have them with an iPad to follow along. If not, if you just want them to watch, that's good too. Just so they get some experience on it. So you can sign up with that link. Martin will put that in the chat. Logix Technology at eventbuilder.com/Swift. You'll be able to find that. You can register and we'll get started. That's happening on Thursday in a couple days from 1 to 2 p.m. I'll be doing it as well. So the QR code, if you want to do this as well, these are just a couple activities that go beyond Swift. So we've created something called 30 Days of Code. Just to give you some intro to coding for depending on your age of students. I've used this from K to 8, and it's a handy little tool that doesn't require all tech. It's low tech. And you can find more information at our Instagram page, which is Apple Teacher Creative Station or @CreativeStation. That is filled with all kinds of Apple, not beyond coding. I did one on coding that you'll see me in there. This is a perfect guide. This guide is all about coding, this one in particular, so you can either screenshot it. Martin has some links handy that he can put in the chat as well. It's just a general overview of what it is. This is the place where I cannot recommend the most. It's our Apple Teacher website. You just simply put in Apple Teacher into Google and it'll take you there. You sign up for free. And I go to it more than I do our Apple Distinguished Educator Center, because we are required as Apple Distinguished Educators to update this with some content. So it's rich in everything Apple and education in that site. Please, please, if you go anywhere, go there. Those are the access to the books we showed you a little bit earlier, but there's teacher guide as well that you can follow step by step, which is nice. And this is the coding resource page. So this is the specific Apple Teacher area where you can get drill down a little bit deeper with coding. We're still a little light on the app design because it's just new. So we're working on that. I'm viciously working on it in the background with Apple, trying to develop some resources that are accessible for K to 8. And this is more on Apple Teacher. So I just zoomed through that one, but I'm just know that we're cognizant of time. I don't want to keep people over. Thank you very much. I hope you've got something out of it. You can reach me at Twitter. It's Phonology CA. That should be a _CA. I guess it auto-corrected. I apologize. Or email me, jason@EurekaSauce. That's my personal website. You can go to eurekasauce.com, and I put all my professional development up there anyways that I do. So with that, I don't know, Martin, if you have anything else to add, if you want to add your coordinates. But hope you got something out of it. I hope that you got a little bit of a taste of what's possible in that short period of time, and hope to see you on Thursday with your students.
Thank you, Jason. That was great.
Perfect. I am going to stop sharing my screen. And there we go. Stop recording. Stop recording.